That is well accepted.
Right.
At least you've gone through the chair now.
I have learned my lesson, Chair. I'm a quick learner. Chair, I'll go very quickly on the issue of the grounds. And by starting by saying that a case was presented before the County Assembly of Kirinyaga and an impeachment was concluded. That motion was then brought to this House with the grounds and the evidence. The responsibility of the motion mover and the county government of Kirinyaga is to prove that motion before the Senate. Now, let me give you the grounds that were alleged and the responses to them. Ground one, violation of the Constitution. There is no constitutional provision for the government to provide at all a state of the county address. There is a provision in the County Government Act. It does not say the presentation is to the county assembly. That county assembly provision is in the standing orders of the House. So if there's any violation, it is that the governor violated the standing orders. That is why you're being asked to impeach her. Number two, on Pauline and Wayne, what is there is salacious information. It is interesting, it's exciting. But look at it this way. Pauline Kamotho was appointed pursuant to an advert by the County Public Service Board that defined her qualifications. This is an independent body. It then went on to interview her. It then went on to recruit her and then decided at this point when it is politically convenient to say, oh, wait a minute, this was not our act, we were being pushed. Who would believe that sort of stuff? Number two, on the evaluation committees. The evaluation committees are ad hoc. Information was given here that actually Pauline and Wayne sat in a minority of evaluation committees. What my colleagues have done is they have picked the contracts in which these two sat and then said, impugn these ones, and then send the story that these are the only contracts that were impugned. But look at the contracts and look at the issues that were raised on those contracts. There is nothing significant in the allegations. The majority of them are about whether or not they complied with AGPO regulations. Now, you are representatives of counties. You know the sort of traders who trade in counties. They are small traders. They are not people with 3 years qualifications, audited accounts of 5 years. Most of them are youth and women companies. So AGPO requirement is the very essence of the success of the business environment in the counties. But what you are saying is making it as if it's evil to have an AGPO certificate. The truth of the matter is that even for the open contracts, we give preference is given to AGPO companies. For all these companies, the AGPO certificates were presented. For EVA Trading, the one that became interesting about 3 contracts on water, because all of them are provision of water, the AGPO certificate was never an issue in this complaint. Otherwise, it would have presented the certificate. And in fact, the certificate is available and will be presented to the committee and to my colleague, and they can confirm this is a government certificate. We are not the ones who produced it. On the issues of the two Gishira, and they sat in committees of either 3 or 5 people as one vote. So at any point there were minorities. So why is it who are so powerful that all the other committee members, are not able to raise issues, but these people, they never sat together in a committee of 2 where there were majority. So that's why I said these issues are salacious and interesting, but they actually have no foundation. Let me also say that we must keep saying, even though my learned Fred would like to keep saying there's a hand in the cookie jar, honestly, that is unfortunate, because if you're going to make an allegation of the nature of corruption, surely, at the very minimum, show that there is loss, so that there is movement of the money from somebody, so that after that contract was given, money was moved to somebody. You can even then show that that person is associated with the governor. There is even no such allegation. All we are saying is a contract X got a contract for 13 million. So that is corruption, and the governor, and this Senate is supposed to believe that story and impeach the governor and send the governor. It is unfortunate and demeaning of the Senate. Now, the issues on the tenders largely revolve around qualification of tenders. In none of these tenders was an issue raised by the losing bidders. Has this House now been converted to the Procurement Regulatory Authority to investigate tenders? Is this House going to be pushing the agendas of contractors who lost tenders? It is not acceptable unless there is almost criminal activity to be shown in the process of evaluation those tenders. Let me mention one contract that went over and over, Velocity. Again, unfortunate. There is no question that those documents relate to one company. I, for example, prepared the response of the governor. I wrote velocity in all those documents myself. I actually did notice that there's a difference in the spelling myself, because it's not the sort of word. Generally, unless you really look, you read velocity. That's a normal thing. So these are very typical sort of errors that happen. And you can see that the critical documents in this process, the tender award, the contract, even the payments are to the same company. So this insinuation is just interesting, salacious, rumor-based, but it actually has no foundation in law. Honorable senators, there are several allegations which were thrown on the motion, but were never even, there was no evidence presented. There's an allegation that a company was paid 8 million shillings and it did nothing. Not a single shred of evidence was presented. It was just thrown there. There are allegations that were given on that the governor did not travel for 13 trips. 13 trips were listed that the governor did not travel. We have shown that in 3 of those proposed payments, there was actually nothing like that. The county assembly actually just created. Remember when I asked for the evidence, they said the chief officer would come and present that evidence. Honorable senators, did you hear that evidence of that money? You did not hear it because it does not exist. On the 8 trips that the governor traveled, the original passport, as I have said, we're offering to give it to you so that you can see it. The reason it's being asked for is if it's to create a narrative, which is very, very unfortunate for this house. Issues that were raised about coffee, Kirinyaga coffee, these issues were not raised in this motion. If these issues had been raised, we would have presented a whole dossier about how it happened that the governor decided at the last minute to cancel this trip. And that was because it was going to be a loss for the county, because they found out at the last minute that their partners in the US expected the county to spend money on that launch. Initially, the assumption had been that they would run the cost. So at the last minute, the governor had to make a decision. Do you continue to expend more, or do you cancel, even if it inconveniences people? If that had been raised in the beginning, would have presented bundles of evidence to show. But this was the essence of ambush. Present evidence at the last minute so that it can be answered, and then you stand and say, oh, we have proved there's been theft. Which theft? Which loss? Which of these contracts has been said not to have been performed, to have been exaggerated, for money to have been paid to a third party? Not. You have set on impeachment motions in this Senate. What is the evidence that has been presented to you by the time you get to the point of making a decision on impeachment? It is not rumors and allegations without evidence. A motor vehicle, honorable senators. How does even an allegation like that find itself in an impeachment motion? This is a vehicle that was, whose budget was approved by the assembly twice, by the same assembly. The only difference was that money was moved from one account in the county to another one to arrest a crisis caused by the advice of the controller of budget. There is no allegation that the governor took any money. There is no allegation the vehicle was appraised. It was bought under a framework contract. And yet, it was presented here for salacious reasons to say that, money was lost. It really is unfortunate. KIDA. KIDA is the allegation about the payment of salaries. And in the documents we have presented to you, you will see there is a formal letter from the SRC on how boards and staff members are to be paid. It is there in the documents. That sort of allegation still finds itself in the motion against the governor. That is what I'm saying about the frivolity of this motion. It is intended to achieve a political purpose. Even the statements that are made in support of it are not based on law. They are intended purely to achieve a political aim. It is meant to defame and harass the governor. On health, honorable senators, the truth of the matter is there are challenges in the health sector. That is the reality. That is not unique to Kirinyaga. That is not unique to one county. Some counties have more challenges than others. In respect of Kirinyaga, a strike happened. There were political issues, as evidence was given. The governor is not the sole player in the process of provision of health services. I can give you 2 examples. In the current budget, because I think that it was one of the documents that was presented to you. In that process, the monies allocated to health has been reduced and given for ward offices. The county assembly has refused to approve the appointment of members of the public service board. So the county government cannot employ doctors. So that is the crisis in which the county public service board has no quorum. That is the sort of problem that is created by the assembly, and then it is thrown to the governor. Evidence on that issue was pushed by people who are clearly pushing an agenda. Even on a simple issue about whether they know each other and whether they work together, they all changed and said they don't, when they realize that there's going to be a problem because they can be seen to be working in concert. These, again, are people pushing agendas. Anybody can visit Kirinyaga County at any time. We invite even this committee to take 2 hours and go there and establish whether the story given on dilapidated services is whatever by the fact. It is not. What do I want to say finally? Is that we have no problem with the oversight role of the county assembly. But if the oversight role and the impeachment is going to be used as an avenue for harassment, for bullying, for punishing governors because they don't bend over backwards, that will not be acceptable. And, honorable senators, you must not allow it. If there is evidence to show that there has been breach, we would say the Senate can exercise its powers as it is allowed by the Constitution, but it must not be utilized for collateral purposes. I will yield the last 10 minutes of my presentation to the governor to make her final comments.